You also raced in Formula 1 in 1990 with the Brabham team, but it was a stage of the team that wasn't really competitive, and again in 1994 with Simtech. But a few people remember that you were teammate of the unlucky driver Roland Ratzenberger, who died obviously in the Saturday of Imola in 1994. What are your personal memories about that tragic Saturday at Imola?
Obviously very sad times, and obviously with Senna being the big icon of that period, you know, the superstar, and he also dying the next day, it brings every year, you know, a lot of people talk about it and always brings back those memories. And they were very difficult times for everyone, not just for me, but, you know, my family, the team. You know, we'd lost a driver, and I think it was only one person in that team who was actually Roland's engineer that actually had lost a driver before. He was the only one that knew what that felt like. For the rest of us, it was a new experience and a very difficult one, and it made us all very confused. Didn't know really what to do, how to do it. You know, do we race the next day? That's a big call. That's a big decision to make, and it came on my shoulders. You know, I remember sitting there with Nick Worth, who owned the team and designed the car, Bernie Eccleston and Max Mosley. They just said, look, it's your decision. If you want to race, we'll back you, but if you don't, we'll back you. If you don't want to race, and I felt I didn't know what to do, to be fair. And I ended up saying, well, let's do the warm-up in the morning and let's see how it goes. So I did the morning warm-up. And it went quite well for where we were as a team. We weren't that competitive. We were a little bit competitive in the warm-up. And it just brought a little bit of a lift in the team. Very slight, but there was a little bit of a lift. And I just felt, I've got to race. I've got to race for these guys. I've got to keep this going. And also race in Roland's honor as well, because I knew Roland well enough he would be looking at me going, what are you doing? If the car's safe, go. You know, you're a racer, keep going, as I would to anyone in that situation. So we made that decision, and it was a great loss, you know, for the sport. He was just new to Formula One. He was just, you know, he'd been trying for years to do it, finally got there, and it was taken away from him at Imola in 94, which was very sad.
How do you continue the legacy today of Brabham? Because I always remember about your father in Australia, because the first corner of the track is named Brabham, like your father, of course. So it always gives me memory. So how do you continue his legacy to this day?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, you know, the name's been around for over 7 decades in racing, and there are 3 generations of drivers. So my dad, myself, my brothers, and our children as well, Matthew and Sam, my son Sam. So the 3 generations continue to race. As a family, I own the Brabham name. And, you know, a few years ago, we launched a Brabham BT62 track car out of Adelaide, Australia, and that was a way of keeping the legacy going. Unfortunately, that project stopped at the end of 23 after being launched in 2018, but I still race for fun, and I race the Brabham BT62 here in the UK with the owner in GT Cup. So we're still continuing that side of it, which is great. 2026 is the 60th anniversary of when my father won his 3rd World Championship, and also Brabham's first Constructors World Championship. So it's a big year for us, and there's lots of planned events to celebrate that achievement. We're working behind the scenes with event organizers and other people and you know, partners to sort of really celebrate that in style, because of the amazing achievement that it was.
So you were talking about before that it will be the 60th anniversary of your father winning his last Formula 1 championship in 1966, but also next year will be his 100th birthday because of your father, because he's born the 1st of April 1926. So are you thinking about doing some special celebrations?
There's three celebrations, really. The fact that he would be 100, which is a lovely emotional touch to it all. And then obviously the 60th anniversary of winning the World Championship and drivers and constructors. So, the fact that he would have been 100, I think, is a lovely touch to the whole celebration.
Do you watch F1 today?
I do. Yeah, I've always still been maintained a fan of Formula One. And, I know some of the people that work in Formula One. I know some of the drivers. Obviously, our family background in Formula One and, my time in Formula One is quite big. Brabham's been a big part of Formula One history. And obviously this year's the 75th anniversary. And, there's the Formula One exhibition that goes around in different countries celebrating Formula One. And there is
who is the driver that reminds you the most of your father?
Oh, that's a good question. I suppose if you to look at all the drivers, I mean, they are very different to the drivers of that day, for sure. Particularly my father, because, my dad was driving, but also, if he wasn't driving, he was in the workshop building and, coming up with some new idea to make the cars faster. Where today's drivers, it's very much only about the driving and they have big pressure to, not only do a lot of races in the year, but also all the sponsor engagements and things like that. It's a very different world. But I guess in terms of him as a character, I think probably Oscar Piastri and Dad are probably the most similar, because my dad was very level-headed, was very determined, and wasn't flustered by anything going on around him. He didn't allow his emotions to get too carried away, and I think Oscar also shows those qualities. So yeah, although they're quite different, they're similar in character in that way.
Who do you think will win the championship this year?
Oh well, that is a really challenging question. Well, you'd have to say it's going to be either Oscar or Lando. I think Oscar's probably the favorite, but I would not rule out anything at this stage. I think what will be fascinating is to see that the championship will go to the last race and it will be winner take all. And I think for Formula One, that's what we want as fans. We want to see it go to the last race. And whoever wins the championship will be absolutely deserving of it. Obviously, I know both drivers. In fact, with Lando, when he won the Autosport Young Driver Award, I can't remember the year now, maybe 2016. I was one of the judges, and you could see how talented he was, and he was the pick of the pile at that time. I've known Lando since karting days when he was little. I know the family, but I also know Oscar. And from an Australian point of view, obviously hoping Oscar comes through, but I wouldn't count anything at this stage. It's going to be super exciting to see what happens.
Thank you, David. It was such a great interview. It was an honor, and I want to thank you so much because it was really interesting, and I'm really happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noah. Really appreciate you having me on the show.